Welcome to Speak Sex. I am your host, Eurydice. I am Greek from the island of Lesbos, where the lesbians come from. I am the writer of 3 books on female sexuality, F32, F32 The Second Coming, Satyricon. I have been the writer of the Sex Files column in Gear magazine, and I have written sex investigative pieces for Spin magazine for years. And I am hosting this podcast because I'm interested in ways to bring together the dichotomy between body and mind, between sex and spirit, between whatever we call the soul and whatever we call the libido, which has been cut open and separated for 2,000 years, maybe more, for sure, since the birth of Christ. So, and to help women find back, get away back into our genetic advantage, which is sex, because we are the generators of life. So, today's guest is Tara Long. She is a multimedia artist and performer. She's also known as poorgrrrl, Mr. Tara Long. She's the CEO of poorgrrrl Enterprises and Lil Spatey. She's going to give a public talk about her work on Friday, February the 8th at Dorsch Gallery. She's also going to be curating one of the stages at 77 Mall Monday, February 4th for the International Noise Conference, and she will be playing herself in a side project called Violetas at Churchill's Wednesday, February 6th. And she'll be performing before Pussy Riot Friday, February 15th on the Sector 3 stage at 3 Points Music Festival. So welcome to the podcast, poorgrrrl.
Thanks for having me, Eurydice.
I really felt that you were one of the ideal guests for this podcast because I know that your work deals with your sexual history, female history, and you're trying to kind of like transcend it through your art and through your noise-making, music. And you have found different languages that are new and cannot quite be described in order to kind of speak this story of pain and objectification and abuse. So I would love to hear both your narrative and how it has formed you as a woman, as an artist, as a creative. I think it will have a lot to tell our listeners about the process, of finding a language that is honest and does justice to the body.
Yeah, definitely. I think the honesty is the most important part right now. We all just gotta be honest about how we really feel and our fears and our hopes and desires and dreams.
Right. Give up on the metaphors and the oxymorons.
Yeah.
And just call it like it is.
Just call it like it is, And I joke around about how I hate sex, because I just feel like for so many years, and I don't know if this is just nature or if it's conditioning, but the female body has been objectified in ways that have really formed the world and the way we see everything. And I guess I get really frustrated about it and about how I feel that as women we're kind of, we're expected to just swallow it. And I just can't swallow it, and I want to get to the point where I can enjoy myself and having sex with whoever or whatever kind of sexual behavior, I want to get to that point, but I'm really not there. I feel very uncomfortable. I feel extremely uncomfortable with men or any sort of
penetration.
Yeah, I just don't trust men, and I don't, you know, but it's weird because I'm also attracted to men and men folk. um, but yeah, I'm trying to get to the place where I'm not, I guess, like afraid of them or afraid of like letting go and just enjoying myself. I've obviously, well, not obviously, but I've had a ton of sex and sexual experiences
Right.
and sexual partners, both like feminine and masculine partners. And yeah, I'm just at a point right now where I just can't feel comfortable with the male experience.
An appendage too.
Yeah, like it's cool, it looks good, but when it comes down to it, maybe it's a psychological thing more for me too than the physical thing, and I don't know how to separate the psychology behind the way I feel and just feeling good physically.
Right. Yeah. Well, you just don't want to enter into the cliche mode, and basically that's all we have. So it's hard at that moment.
It is, and I think that's why maybe when it comes to my work, I feel like the female body is so exploited in the commercial world, of advertisement or entertainment. And a lot of what I do is a big time rejection of that exploitation.
Right.
By, I was classically trained in theater, so I know how to perform on stage and eye contact and how to move. And I basically do the exact opposite of all my training. Whenever I'm on stage, I try to not look up. I try to give my back to the audience. I don't wear anything revealing. I don't want to give them anything, which some people are very confused by because they're like, we're here to be entertained, like entertain me. And I guess I'm trying to offer something more like a frequency and a vibration and an energy that I'm trying to share that's real and honest, and I'm trying to get people past this expectation of, oh, woman on stage, she's going to sing beautifully and she's going to like show me a little skin and they're going to dance. And it's like, no, no, you have enough of that. I'm not here for that. I need to do something else and be true to myself.
Yeah, and it takes guts. I mean, I've seen your shows, and it takes guts because you have to go against that instinct of pleasing the audience. You're up there, and it would be much easier not to deconstruct yourself.
Exactly.
But you are taking it apart piece by piece.
Exactly. In front of everyone.
In front of everyone. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, your friends are there supporting you. They get it. But then there are all these other people. You just can't quite know
exactly
how they respond to it.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't get it. And a lot of people are confused at the people that say they do get it. And they're just like, but why? I don't get it. Like, I don't.
Well, I can see how, especially because I remember I saw you perform during our puzzle, and there were a lot of strangers and outsiders, visitors in the crowd, and just from my own sense, my intuitive sense of how they were seeing you on stage, they felt you were aggressive, so people will take it personally.
Yes, that's true. It's definitely
which is so absurd.
It's funny, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it is funny.
You're in an anonymous crowd. This is not about you.
This is not about you.
No, she's not angry with you.
Thank you. Not directly, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's definitely this balance of like the anger and the pain. And I guess, yeah, that kind of wavers back and forth between like how I personally feel and how I try to express it in my work.
It's also about power dynamics, at least the work on stage, very
big
much.
Time.
Yeah.
Big time power dynamics. There's definitely a power in sex.
Yes.
And I try to actually remove it completely so that my power comes from another place. Because I think that a lot of women's power comes from sex, like from them being objectified, but that gives them power in a way, you know?
Pornographic sex.
Exactly. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just think that I'm trying to form that powerful kind of energy without using myself sexually.
Right, your fuckability.
Exactly. I mean, because it's like very frustrating when I look at, you know, the power dynamics in the world and the men that are in power, you know, and no offense, guys, but it's a bunch of like fat, gross dudes that have all this power. And it's just interesting. My new thing is like holding men up to the same standards that they expect us to hold up for them, you know, this like type of body and this, you know, way of being. And I don't know, it's just, it's interesting how it's so different, the power dynamic.
Yeah,
so I'm trying to balance
it's devastating. For me, just looking around, you know, going out at night and being in a crowd and seeing all these, you know, old, unattractive, and unattractive not just physically, because the physical is the least of it, but spiritually, psychically. I mean, you look in their gaze, they are not present at all. And they have on their arms young babes, younger and younger. And when I say younger, it's every year they're getting younger. So the guy can be 60, the girl can be 22, 21. It's just, you know, this whole sugar baby culture, industry, conventions has both enabled and justified this behavior. So especially younger girls feel that this is the easiest way to make some money, just, you know,
to support themselves, to survive, to sustain themselves.
Yes, but it's not the easiest way.
It's not. I don't think it's, and it almost sometimes feels like the only way, but it's not the only way.
It's not the easiest way. That's the important, I mean, for me, I feel that, you know, they don't understand in that moment because they're young, their brains are not even fully formed, their bodies are not, you know, their sexual energy is not fully formed. They hardly know how they come themselves.
Right.
They haven't learned anything about this realm of, you know, sexual exchange, and yet they give themselves to these, you know, guys, buyers. And I'm not saying in a it's a transactional thing.
Right.
But it's never just a body. It's never, you know, like brushing your teeth. It's never like walking down the street. You know, sport sex isn't the same as sport, because there's part of them, of who they are, that they also give away, that they also lose.
Yes. I think there are people that do have a grasp on that. Like there are, you know, I do believe in the sex worker being a powerful figure, someone that does understand that and like knows that energy and knows how to use it and survive off of it. I think that is a skill, you know.
Right, definitely. But these are babies.
But these are babies, and
they're not sex workers.
They're not.
Not at all.
And I think that, you know, and you look at social media and how people are using it and exposing themselves, it's interesting because I feel like a lot of people that don't understand sex work are inadvertently becoming involved in it by posting themselves up in a certain way, and they're getting that same kind of that exchange is happening on, it's one-sided, you know. The men are getting off on these photos where these or I don't know, I don't like using men and women. We're in like this, you know,
hopefully
transport
we're getting
out of gender.
non-binary,
right. So like, excuse when I say these things, I'm kind of traumatized, I think, just by the male energy and what that is to me, and because of my experiences. So, but yeah, I just think it's interesting right now. The social media is becoming an interesting place for this dynamic. And then I also wanted to say something about just I think there's like this weird shift happening right now where a lot of kind of more feminine peoples are looking inward, right? And we're trying to like unpack and unravel what is going on in our conditioning and why we've become this way. And I feel it a lot more with people that are connected with the feminine, whereas the people that are disconnected from their feminine energy, they seem to just not be interested in kind of turning inward and looking at themselves and pulling this apart, you know? So there's something to that. Like, why are the femmes like doing all this work and the others are just kind of still floating by as if everything's just...
Yeah, well, it's incumbent upon us
Right.
to try and, illuminate them. They're not going to, because they have the upper hand.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, that's why I'm doing this podcast. Precisely that, it's my own way to find clarity and healing. And, the impetus was that partly because of Me Too, I had this realization that my mind has stayed male, so that even though I always thought I was a feminist and a post-feminist, and I never took, I was very conscious of power, never gave away my power, I didn't take a man's name or hand or money or whatever, all that stuff.
Right.
And the sex, I was very clear about my place in the sexual exchange. I realized that I was, in a sense, objectifying my own body and, pimping my body for my pleasure.
Yeah.
I would watch my body in the mirror. I would kind of get off of what, so my mind that was in charge of the sexual experience was male all along.
Yes.
And it had no other way of being because there was no other alternative.
Yes, exactly.
So
the
I
conditioning.
fell into it.
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying, and it's very interesting that it's gone that far, that it's in us as women as well,
Right.
and women folk. Where like, it's just wild. It's that powerful, Like, I'm extremely turned on by sexualized female bodies, feminine bodies, much more than the male body, and it's like, that's, I think, conditioning, you know, and then there's this whole argument of nature and nurture and what's natural and this, the testosterone versus the estrogen and like, the femme is supposed to be nurturing and we don't want sex. We never want sex. We don't want sex. And like the male is like, oh, I must breed and I must screw. And it's like, I don't think that's really true. I think,
no, we always want sex.
Yeah, I think everyone wants sex. I think, and people have come to me with statistics. Well, statistically, and it's like, well, statistically, I think women are terrified to be honest. And they're not even being honest with themselves. You know?
Yeah.
So how could you even get a statistic if there's no real way to actually get an answer for this question?
Exactly. That's exactly how I feel about it.
Yeah.
The language is male. The gaze is male.
Yep.
So if there is no space, if there's no way to translate it, how are you going to get an honest answer?
Right.
They don't know what the question is.
Right. And I don't want to, like, give all that power, but I just, it's just what I feel, and I think it's good that we are talking about it.
Yeah, that's why we're talking about it.
Yeah.
We gotta use what we have. We
Yeah.
gotta use patriarchy's tools and make space for ourselves because there's nothing else.
There's nothing else
Yeah.
yet.
Yet.
We're building it.
Yeah.
We're shaping it.
Yeah.
Carving away the bullshit.
Yes.
There's a lot of it. It's deep. It's stinky. It's old.
It's so deep.
It's crusty. Oh, it's crusty in those corners.
Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about your story, if
like personal?
your personal journey.
Right, let's get personal. I have a very interesting story as far as kind of this feminine masculine power dynamic. I think I had like a lot of us, I had a lack of male energy in my family. There weren't very many men. The men were gone. Don't know who my dad is. The females, the women in my family, they went through a lot of mental anguish and ended up with a lot of mental illness and alcoholism and depression and bipolar, schizophrenic, just pretty much everything you could think of that someone could experience mentally.
Do you think that some of it was because they felt rejected by the man?
I think so. I think that, so my mother died when I was 9. She committed suicide. And so I only have like stories about her that I have no idea if they're even true or what's going on. It's a big mystery. And I'm starting to hear things like, oh, your mom used to go to Georgia and pull her hair back and call herself Jimmy and pretend she was a guy and work on a ship, like unloading boxes. And I was like, oh, cool. She was ahead of the game.
Yes.
She also had a bunch of like personalities that she would kind of write these different short stories in these different personalities. And, from these stories, I gather that she was never able to find this unconditional love that she was searching for. She was also a stripper and a sex worker, so there's stories that, oh, your father must have been a trick. That's literally like something that my family tells me in that exact wordage.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Which is fine. But like the story goes that she wanted to have a baby because she thought that would finally solve that issue of the unconditional love.
Yeah.
And so
and it should have.
And it should have, and it's a really sad, kind of tragic story, but that's why I'm trying to be the person that breaks that karma and breaks that cycle, and it's, God damn, is it a struggle, like it is a challenge what I'm doing right now. I think that's another thing that, people might not understand when they see me and they see my work. When you see it from the outside, it might look raunchy or, aggressive and disturbing. But I'm trying to break through something for myself, for my ancestors, and then also for human beings.
Yeah.
Just like my little
your tribe
step, yeah. So yeah, my mom, she had me. And then a year after that, her depressed mother, who was an alcoholic and on a lot of, drugs, more like pills, I guess.
Pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, she ended up also committing suicide with me as a 1-year-old baby and my mother in the house in another room. I think that really set my mom off. She was doing a lot better. She wasn't stripping. She wasn't on the...
Yeah, but that's the ultimate betrayal.
But that's, yeah.
If your mother...
Yes, exactly. So, I think that set her off. We had a lot of issues after that. I had a really weird childhood until I was like 4. And then we got in a really big car accident. They took me away from her. And then a few years after that, she ended up... oddly enough, jumping off a building in Hialeah, which is just like, damn, like just kind of try to process this lineage, and then here I am, this weird orphan child, that's always trying to make everybody else feel okay because I know that they're like really worried, and then so. That's my story, that's the background.
Yeah.
And that's where I take off into the work that I do now. Trying to...
So, who raised you after your mom left you?
In the very beginning, my great-grandmother, who was just a powerhouse, took care of me, but she was a little, like, out of it, so I ended up with my great-aunt, my great-grandmother's daughter, and my grandmother's sister. And that was cool for like a year. And then her husband ended up having an affair with a neighbor.
Aye.
And so that
Drama.
Yeah, the drama. They obviously divorced, or again, not obviously, but they divorced. And that my aunt just couldn't take it. She just from there kind of depleted into this kind of like she's got some hoarder cat lady tendencies, you know. And I watched that whole process kind of develop over many years, and there was no stopping it. You know, I did my fair share of like housework and trying to like, you know, as a child, I'm trying to like keep this thing from happening, but it didn't work. She went all the way. And I don't blame her. The stuff my family went through is, I mean, out of control. And without some sort of help, guidance, therapy, knowledge of, you know, okay, this is going to be something I'm going to have to really process, and I don't have those processing skills, and let me read a book about it or learn about it. Without that drive and understanding, there's no way someone is going to make it. You know, she's alive, but she's not living. You know, she is just
hiding.
She's
indoors,
hiding, and she's a slave to her, you know, what I would call mental illness.
Right.
And, you know, I don't think she would ever put it
that's
that way.
what gives her safety.
And that's what
the
gives her
things
safety.
that she holds on to. She holds on to everything, and they protect her.
Yeah, and it's the fear and the worry, and, you know, that's what I'm trying to fight against. I don't want to end up in that position of being terrified, you know?
Yeah.
So that's where I'm trying to overcome.
You're a beautiful flower. You've come a long way.
Eurydice. You are too. You've been there for quite a few
Some of
years.
it, yeah.
Yeah, so...
Yeah.
I think I'm doing all right.
You're doing great.
Thank you.
So then I'm going back to the chronology.
Go for it.
Where did you move from the aunt's house?
So from there, you know, it was so bad in there by my teens, you know, and in my teens is when all this stuff started coming out.
Of course.
That didn't start coming out, any of that. I didn't even start processing any of this shit until I was, you know, 13, 14.
Yeah.
Then it all started coming out. My aunt could not handle it. I couldn't handle being there. I used to run away. I used to steal her car. It was like really bad. And then, so when I was 16, I had a, you know, 26-year-old boyfriend, and I moved out into his apartment. And from there, I got a job. I got another job. I had like 3 jobs. I dropped out of high school, and I just started working, and money became my freedom, my way to free myself from my family, from my past, from, you know, but it's also at the same time the sex came in, you know, all the men and the sex and this whole thing of like, am I doing this because I want to, or am I doing this because he wants to do it? And
because he's supporting me.
Right. But I always supported myself, and oddly enough, always got myself into a position where I was supporting these guys.
Boyfriends.
Yeah.
Well, good for you.
And like, that was wild, you know, but I developed this weird, you know, and now I'm trying to deal with this. Now I'm processing this situation of like, I've developed this pattern of, and I guess it's like maybe I'm trying to save my family by like saving these boys however I can, which I am currently on strike. No more of that for me right now. But yeah, for many, many years, I went in and out of relationships, monogamous, straight, cis relationships with men, that really, it was just the same thing over and over again. And like literally they would last the same amount of time, like 2 years. 2 years done. Like an expiration date. My family started making fun of me at some point. So
I still think it's healthy. I mean, it's not truly healthy, but it's a first step toward health. You know, you turn it around. You are the one paying the bills. So, you know, you got yourself like a boy toy. And you're learning intimacy, but at least, you know, you're appending the stereotype.
yes.
So I think that's a good way to start going about it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
You're learning care. And
you're
then
learning
now
trust and care.
And now I'm on to this.
But not without being controlled.
Without
the
being
money, they can't control you.
Exactly.
And, you know, that's the first step, I think, for a woman to learn for women folk of all kind. You
Right.
know, that's the first kind of practical method. There is no other. You know, we gotta divorce ourselves from that financial dependency on the male.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
Whatever it takes. Yeah.
Whatever it takes,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then we have to take care of ourselves first, which is really a very
Yeah.
interesting challenge.
It's hard, yeah, because it's so much easier to, you know, go on a date,
Yeah.
you know, have a quickie,
Yeah.
and not think about, feel good, you know,
Right.
like have sex,
Yeah.
have an orgasm. Oh, it feels so nice.
Yeah. Give someone
like you get all these endorphins and
Right.
everything is good again, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm trying to unpack that. You know, what is it about sex that I like? Because for me, a lot of it was I liked pleasing someone else. I liked making someone else feel good, you know? And in there, I would feel good here and there.
The validation, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I've maybe had in my whole life like 4 orgasms that I didn't do for myself.
Wow.
You know, like you know.
Wow.
So that's real. That's pretty
real.
real. And that's something I'm working on.
Yeah, that's great to
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
It's great to know that.
You know.
Yeah.
I envy those who can so easily come.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, in my opinion, I mean, I am one of those, but and some of it is just
Lucky.
genetic, you know,
Right,
you're just
right.
born this way.
Yeah.
With this facility, you know, it's like some people are good at a certain sport, or so
Right.
it is a physical facility.
natural ability.
Yeah,
Yes.
a natural capacity that you're born with from day one. And I feel that as far back as I can remember, I was able to touch the clit and come.
Oh.
But finding the appropriate language to get the right partner is extremely difficult. 'Cause there's really no way to get out of the stereotype. You know, you're either going to be the top and you're going to find the bottom, or it's all so messed up. And it's okay if you're going to have just sex a few times, but the moment you enter a relationship, then all of these roles that patriarchy has set up for so long, and they are the only roles we know. It's like they come into play, and so who are you going to be and who am I going to be, and we can't make that up from scratch.
Right.
And all of them in the end control the female. Ultimately they're going to try to control the female. It doesn't matter if you're the dominatrix or and you're wearing the thigh-high stiletto boots and you're holding the crop.
Right.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. They will control. So that's what I found in my experience, that outside the sexual space, everything else was about the control of the female.
Yes.
So we are, being aware of it, the consciousness of it, and the consciousness of how we go about changing it, which is really through words. There is no other way. We have to find a new language.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And find ways to negotiate with our lover, about a sexual scene that's new.
Yes, definitely.
And say, this is what I like. And speak up each step of the way. No, not that way.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, the first challenge is really, really finding what it is you like without that inner male gaze or inner male desire,
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I find it challenging, and I tend to revert, into abstinence, because I just, I'll have an experience and then I'll hate myself after.
Right.
And it's easier to just not do it at all. And that's why I say that I just hate sex right now. And I don't want to hate sex. I want to be able to feel good,
Yeah.
But I want to know that it's me feeling good.
Exactly.
Because of what I want to, what I want.
Well, I think abstinence is a good reset button.
Yeah.
Just short period of abstinence, press reset, work that whole processor from scratch, you know.
Exactly.
And then you see things more clearly instead of just repeating
Exactly.
compulsively.
Compulsive
Right.
behavior.
Because if you don't reset, you just are in that mode where you're not aware, you're not conscious. And you just,
Exactly.
think the next time will be perfect.
Right.
Whereas like 20 of these have not worked.
Exactly. It's insanity.
Yeah.
It's insanity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like literally.
Mm-hmm. But it's good to also, understand your own archetypes, what turns you on, what makes you feel familiar. Because we all need that narrative to exist, to be a self. We need a story
Yeah.
to put around us. So, again, during the research time, you work on the narrative, you can rearrange your story a little.
Yes, and try to detach. I went to this 10-day silent meditation, and I learned that we attach ourselves to so much, and then other people attach things to us, and then we
Definitely.
reattach because they think we're attached, and then the stories that we repeat over and over of our lives and our back, which we do need that information, and it does help us, but at the same time, we can really hold ourselves back when we can't let go. My aunt, whenever she does something shitty, she's like, well, my dad used to beat me when I was a kid, and it's like, fuck. I mean, that sucks, but geez, that was 50 years ago, you know? And it's like, you gotta detach from that and stop blaming that for you being a total bitch right now. But people, this is really hard. This is extremely challenging. You have to really want to do this and dig and dig and dig, and it's painful. It's like and they use the metaphor in that meditation that it's like a surgery, like a really long, painful, drawn out surgery, and people get to the first cut and they're like, oh no, we're not even in there, we're not even taking that tumor out, we just cut you open a little bit. So it's to actually go down in there, dig that shit up, pull it out, sew it up, put the cream on it for months, and that's something that not everyone is willing to do, and not everyone sees that that's the how we're gonna overcome, because it's painful, and they're like, oh, this hurts, I don't like it. This isn't, I don't like it, so I think that's
but you have to learn what hurts you and what formed that original pain.
Exactly.
And why your brain assumed that was hurtful.
Yes.
Early on. You can reprogram your own way of understanding information. You can retrain your neural pathways to respond differently. Because basically our brain is just trying to protect us all the time. So sometimes it registers, enemy or unwanted because it's simply unfamiliar, or because there is some, very old childhood association or whatever. So silence is unfamiliar.
Yes.
And languages are narcotic. So without that, language is in entertainment, and it's a way to kind of woo us into submission.
Yeah.
So without it, the brain is going to act up.
Yes, it definitely
What
does.
is this? A week of not talking?
Oh my gosh. It is like a wild animal that you finally get in a cage. It does not calm down for days. And then even then, but I really recommend it. I mean,
No, I hear it. I hear you.
And I think that some people went through it without really having the true experience. I don't know what they were doing. I mean, I'm sure they had some kind of experience, but I just feel like people they took it in a weird, shallow way. I don't know how to explain it. They didn't really get out of it maybe what they could have. But I was there for it, and a lot of other people were there for it. And it just, I don't know how to explain it. You really get to kind of objectively look at your mind and how it functions and how it functions to destroy you.
Exactly.
You know, and unless you get a handle on that beast and tame it and master it, it will drag you through this life, and it will destroy you and everything around you.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm being kind of dramatic about that, but it's true.
No, I think it's true. It's what we call the monkey mind in the yogic tradition.
Yes.
You cannot listen to it. You cannot believe what you think. I mean, that's that cliche. And the mind takes its information from such old, experience that could be your first 6 months.
Yep.
When you're, for example, the original suicide, your mind can still be holding on to those definitions of pain and, feeling good. And definitely they don't serve you. But unless you're aware of it and you do the reset and try to open up new space,
yes,
you're stuck with it.
Yep.
And that's also, I think another problem with sex is that we think we process it through our minds. And one of the best ways to free our sexuality is to just take the mind out of it.
Yes.
And, try to just be present as, body and spirit, but not the mental stuff.
Exactly.
I mean, for me, I like to describe orgasm, which for women lasts much longer, is the only time where we can be truly free of the self, of the boundaries and bondage of the self as other people know us, as this construct, that we're burdened with.
Yes.
But we don't have an alternative. We're kind of like stuck with this as a way to translate ourselves quickly to everybody. But I feel that during orgasm, there is that freedom, that extraordinary, reunion with the bigger spirit or cosmos or whatever you want to call it. And however briefly, you don't remember who you are. You're not you. It's wonderful.
Right, it's feeling.
Yeah, because that you is that whole patriarchal construct with all those pains and memories and traumas and scars upon scars and
fears and doubts and insecurities.
Yeah. Self-defenses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, like fortress.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's nice to let go of that burden. Yeah.
Life and orgasm.
If only.
Perpetual orgasm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hell yeah. We're trying to transcend to that,
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did try many years ago to make a perpetual orgasm machine. I really worked for like a year.
Where is that?
In my storage.
Oh, wow. We should pull that out.
It didn't work. But yeah, we should keep working on it.
Yeah, we should maybe circle back. For sure.
Didn't quite work.
Yeah.
So in your work, I know that you also do spiritual practice and wise woman work. So do you find that that's one of the paths to reclaim a healthy sexuality?
Totally.
Healthy gender?
Yes, totally. There's definitely...
Through ritual,
through this belief in energy and how it affects us and how we can radiate it or be depleted of it or renew it. I think the more you can understand yourself as being like an energetic being, and then the world having all this energy and magnetism, and the rituals are to help you focus the energy and build the energy and protect the energy and use the energy for your benefit and for the benefit of everything for the greater good, some people use it for bad things, but like, yes, I think that is a big step, or something that can be a tool. These practices can definitely break you out of cycles and out of patterns and replace shitty habits with something much more beneficial and productive. And the growth that I've had, it's funny too, because I used to live behind your house, and really it was in that space that I kind of started my personal practice and energy work.
Nice.
Yeah, I was actually, speaking of abstinence, I was definitely not having sex for a good year being there. And in that time, I was trying to come out of something that was dark.
A cocoon.
Yes, a cocoon. Exactly. It functioned as a cocoon for me. And I went into a lot of research. I studied tarot and the occult, and I did baths of different, cleansing waters. And I don't know, it's like trending right now, and the crystals and all this, but there's underneath the trend is something very real.
Yes, I agree.
And very useful.
I agree.
And it's kind of frustrating that the trend is turning people off. Like the trending part of it is kind of like,
well, that's how the system co-opts everything.
Exactly.
It starts as the real thing, and then it becomes trendy, and then it's used for advertising.
Yeah.
And then all the supermodels are pushing it on us.
Right.
And then we're going like, eek.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in a coven if it's that.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want the Lancome coven.
Yeah. Lancome. Crystal witch vibes.
I know, but that's how they do it.
It is.
And I feel that the thing about magic and natural religion is that A, brings us closer to our nature, which nature empowers us.
Yes.
Because we give birth.
Yes.
But also it's something that comes to us as practice from before Christianity.
Yes.
So it's from, it predates this extreme, spiritual control.
Yeah.
Yes, the law was male before and women didn't have rights, but religion was very female based. And the women gods were much more helpful than the male gods, who were busy, sleeping around. Or
right,
whatever.
For sure.
Yeah, arguing. So I feel like the mother worship, the worship of energy, even when it turned into polytheic religions like the Greeks or the Romans or the Hindus, it still was mostly mother-based.
Mm-hmm.
And when in need, it was, the woman, the female divine that that we looked to.
Yes.
But now with this the Trinity, male Trinity thing, or I don't know if the bird is. I think the bird is phallic. I don't know what gender the Holy Spirit embodies.
Right.
Yeah. But that that's what we need to try to get away from as we access our spirit and our faith and our kind of intangibles.
Yeah, our connection to each other and to where we live.
Right.
Yeah, it's a lot. I also find in researching and reading a lot of information about this kind of stuff, it is also very male centric. It's written by men, and the women shouldn't read, and the women shouldn't learn, and they're there to serve you. Like the Bible is full of this weird, I guess it's like the what's the Old Testament, I guess mostly is very it's there's something really weird about how it talks about women in our role, I guess. And it's also in the occult. It's everything is male driven. But at the same time, you're right. There's a ton of like the goddess worship and the mother and the birth of the universe. And so, yeah, there's a balance to be found, or just, I mean, maybe it's just tipping the scales right now, because it's not even a balance we need anymore. It's like a full blown shift.
Oh, yeah. We need to somehow fuck shit up.
Yeah.
Fuck the patriarchy.
Fuck the
up.
patriarchy up.
But it's, it's hard to know how to push the whole thing down. I don't even care about the consequences. It would just be nice to push it down.
Yeah.
But, they're in charge of everything. I mean, they're in charge of finances. They're in charge of law, inheritance.
Yeah.
You have a baby, it takes the name of the father or the husband, or, it's just so ingrained
Embedded
into everything.
Yeah.
And I do think that money is at the heart of it. Because if we didn't need money, it would be much easier if we could live in this world of the earth, but still be part of it, not as loners, outsiders out there in the middle of nowhere, like living off the farm, but being a vital part of this, of an busy, vibrant urban center, without needing to go shopping at the supermarket and, dress and look a certain way and pay the rent and pay the taxes and all that stuff. We would have done it. It's just almost impossible to monetize in the system without taking on the whole construct, the whole worldview, the whole concept.
Exactly.
Yeah. So one of the ways is to change that. One of our ways would be to try to find, money sources that are not within the patriarchy.
Yeah. That's the goal.
Tricky.
Right now. Yeah. Tell me about it. We're always scheming out here.
Yeah, we are.
We are scheming.
We're
out here.
like female hustler.
Yes,
folk.
we are. Yes, exactly. That is exactly what it's come to be. And
and I think being a creative is about that. It's like creating a new way of making money that makes sense.
Exactly. New structures, new support systems.
Right.
I definitely 100% agree with that.
Yeah, that's what I feel too. It's not about writing another book or, writing a TV series. It's about that, creating like social role models, new ways of being in, outside the system, but still in it.
Yes, still able to use it.
Right, to use it to communicate and to participate fully.
Yes. That is the challenge, Yuri.
Well, we're going to do it.
Yes, we're doing it.
Yeah.
We're doing it.
We're doing it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, with this cheer, we're going to conclude the episode with Tara Long. Go see her, listen to her, watch her. She's amazing. And I'll talk to you next Friday.
Bye.
Bye.